y'all. Today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You were made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
And welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is going to be so fantastic, and that is partly because of our amazing sponsor, Executive Help Now, your premier partner to private equity funds and portfolio companies delivering operational excellence through embedded virtual teams, cutting-edge technology, and deep industry expertise that scales with your ambition. From streamlining operations and managing your back office to producing podcast shows and keeping everything organized, our team is here to help you thrive. So if you're ready to make your life just a little bit easier, hit us up at www.executivehelpnow.org. Y'all, today's guest, I'm so honored and so thrilled to have with us Chris Miles. Chris is the cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor who helps high-income earners escape the grind and achieve financial freedom without relying on Wall Street. He retired twice by the age of 39 and has helped clients uncover over $300 million in hidden cash flow. As the founder of Money Ripples and the host of the Money Ripples podcast, Chris has been featured on CNN Money, Bigger Pockets, and Entrepreneurs on Fire. His mission is to empower professionals to take control of their money and build a life of purpose, freedom, and lasting wealth so they can stop working for money and start living life on their terms. Y'all, put your hands together for Chris Miles.
Hey, Renee. It's good to see you.
It is so great to see you. How are you doing today?
Oh, just fantastic. You know, it's always a pleasure to be doing something like this. This like lights up my week. So thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you here. And rumor has it, this is about your 1,000th guesting appearance. Is that correct?
Yeah, probably at least. Yeah. Not just the guest appearance. I mean, I do have that too, but also I've got 1,000 on my own show too. So I'm about to hit my 1,000th episode on the Money Ripples podcast.
Oh, I am so excited for you. That is quite an accomplishment. And I mean, putting on a show is not an easy task. And for you to do it over 1,000 times, holy camoli, that's great. Quite an accomplishment. So, Chris, tell us, what inspired you to become a cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor? Why anti-financial advisor?
It's because I used to be one. That's why. It's funny because I actually started my entrepreneur journey. I wanted to become an entrepreneur, like a business consultant, but I figured I should have real life business experience. So I started looking for some business to start. And the one that I ended up doing was actually becoming a financial advisor. Now, I end up enjoying it so much, being able to have, work life on my own terms. I was totally 100% commission only, started from scratch, loved it. I actually dropped out of college to become an entrepreneur. So I actually dropped out with one class to go before I had my degree. And
Oh,
so I
wow.
said, that's it. I'm staying out.
Wow.
Well, I was a financial advisor for about 4 years and I was drinking the Kool-Aid, right? I was telling you to set it, forget it, save it forever, save everything, spend nothing, and hopefully someday you might have something.
Mm.
And then a while later, about 4 years in, my dad reached out to me. He said, well, when are you going to advise me? And
Mm.
so I sat down with my dad. Now, understand my dad was like the penny pinching saver. He was the guy that bought everything on sale, especially if it was in a case and it was like nearing expiration date, right? Like if it was a reduced price, I ate it as a kid. That's probably why I had so many gut issues as an adult later on. But
Oh,
like that's the thing. He's like the penny pinching saver. He wanted to save everything, and he even taught me just save, just put money away like crazy. Well, that's
mm.
what he did. And I sat down with him and I see that he had saved money into his company's 401k, getting the company match like every good boy or good girl should. And then he paid off his house. He was 100% debt free. This guy should be like the poster child for financial freedom, especially if you watch Dave Ramsey show, right?
Right.
Well, I looked at all of his numbers and I said, Dad, you're 61 years old. If you try to retire today, you're going to need to die in about 5 or 6 years because that's when
Oh,
you're going to run out of money.
oh no.
He said, all right, that's not what I'm going to, hear, Mr. Happy Pants. What do I do? I said, I don't know, save more, work longer,
Oh,
which is what he did. He actually worked into his 70s till he was forced into retirement due to health reasons. And
oh,
even to this day, he's now in his 80s, lived way longer than he expected, and he's trying to stretch every dollar he can to try to not run out of money.
oh, wow.
And that shocked me. This was then at the end of 2005 when I sat down with him, and I was shell shocked because I thought if anybody had it figured out, it should have been him. And
Right.
even worse, I was on the same path as him. I was trying to live the same example that he taught me as a financial advisor, thinking that maybe I could retire in my 40s or 50s. And
Mm.
that just was reality. It became very apparent when I realized not only were none of my clients financially free, but neither were any of the financial advisors I knew. Even the ones that have been working there since the 1970s couldn't retire themselves. So why in the hell am I doing this? Like, why am I following this advice?
Right.
And so that's when I realized I'm like, okay, either I stay what I'm doing, stay the course and just put blinders on and ignore that the evidence shows me that it's not working, or I leave. And so I
Mm.
chose the latter. I left. I said, I'll never teach about money again. I'll just be a ballroom dance instructor, and that's it. So anyways, long story short, I end up learning more things about passive income, like you hear in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? But actually how to do it. And I did it with real estate investing. Later that next year, I had enough passive income coming in that I was actually able to retire when I was 28 years old. And
Wow.
that's when I really realized, I'm like, oh my goodness, like people need to know about this. And so in 2007, I came out of retirement to teach people how to do just that.
Wow. Now, when you say passive income, that looks different to different people. Can you be a
Mhm.
little bit more specific about that?
Yeah, passive income has been kind of like ruined over the last several years, hasn't it? I mean, you hear all these people talk about passive income and, they'll say, oh yeah, just start up this business, which is anything but passive, right?
Right.
So when I talk about passive income, I mean using your money to go into investments that pay you. So you're not doing all the work. The investments are doing the work for you, right? That's
Right.
why I often refer to, we don't say retirement because most people don't want to just retire and just do nothing. They want to
Right.
become work optional. They want to have enough passive income coming in from their investments, right? That are coming in that they work because they want to, not because they have to. And so
Right.
that's what we really mean by that.
Okay. So it's an investment in something else that's making money for you while
Right.
you basically, or do whatever else you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not the way that most people think. Most people think you have to do the accumulation theory, right? Which is I'm going to squirrel my money away forever, build it up, and then hopefully, like a squirrel, hopefully my winter of retirement doesn't last too long, right? And they're just going to pull out little by little and just try to live on this fixed little budget. And that's just a horrible way to live. I mean, that's what my dad did, right? And so
Right.
we teach people is like, no, like one, you don't have to wait till your 60s or 70s to do this. You can literally get your money working harder for you by having it pay you actual income and even predictable income that's coming in each and every month or every quarter so that you can now live life on your own terms.
Right. And so for you to have retired twice by the time you were 39,
Mhm.
you must have made a really good investment decision to begin with that continued to pay you this passive income so that you could retire. So, is there something that people need to know to make sure that they're investing in the right thing, the right passive income opportunity? Because every day somebody's got a deal, you
Uh-huh.
know? And so, how do you know when it's the right deal for you?
That's a great question. And it's interesting you mentioned about retiring twice because although that's true, the reason it was twice is because I screwed up the first time. Because I mentioned that I did it the first time, right? But then
Right.
2007, the recession hit. I had started with some partners, this brand new coaching business. We're going to save the world, help them teach how to have passive income. Well, the recession hit. Our company was suffering because most of the people we were coaching were real estate investors. And so they didn't pay us. So our company was sinking fast. My personal finances weren't doing great anymore because now not only was I not making money, but even my own real estate was going under, right?
Oh,
And so it was like this perfect storm, in the George
mm.
Clooney movie sort of way. So you're dying of starvation. I literally went from millionaire to welfare in just a matter of a few years. And
Oh,
I mean, I was literally like getting food stamps and everything else, trying to make ends meet because I had a young family. I mean, I
wow.
even April 2009, the week before my fourth child was born, there's a knock on my door. A guy said, "Hey, I just bought your house down at the courthouse a half hour ago. When can you get out?" And I
Oh,
literally had to I had to just offer. I was like, "Can I pay you $2,000 for the next 2 weeks of rent so I can have a baby? Basically, my wife can have the baby, and then we can figure out where to move." And so we did. We frantically tried to find a place to live.
oh my word. What a story. I mean, that is, I mean, it's a testimony of
Mhm.
your resilience. It's a testimony of your intestinal fortitude to go through this
Mhm.
situation of being on such a high and
Mhm.
then hitting such a low and still making it through and go to the other side.
Oh yeah.
There's a gentleman that I follow, and his name is Sam Chan, and he talks about going through the valleys and going through the called the garbage dump of the valley and go and trudging your way through. But it's
Mhm.
when you get on that other side that you realize how much you're capable of and what you're able to do once you put your mind to it. So, anyways, that's a whole nother story for another day. But anywho, congratulations to you
Yeah.
for handling that um, seemingly negative situation
Yeah.
in such a positive way.
Yeah. I mean, it was rough. I mean, I will not lie. I mean, it was pretty bad. I had a lot of really bad days. I mean, I remember even my wife at that time, she was threatening to move out with the kids until I figured my stuff out and things like that. And it was tough, getting collector calls all day. But
Mm,
it's true. Like when you switch your mindset, when I went away from being a victim about it to all of a sudden being, trying to be in control and try to spin my perspective on it and more
mm,
to a abundance perspective versus scarcity, it
mm,
really did help. Because for example, I made sure I was always working out every day because at least I would get a win in the morning, even if I felt like a loser later on.
mm.
I'd try to do that. I'd try to meditate, pray, read, scriptures, all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
and I'll tell you the biggest thing that happened though is that when I started to reverse how I saw the whole situation, when I realized that this is for me, like this, there's something here, and I would even envision my future self saying, "Man, like just imagine how awesome it'd be getting on the other side of this, and what a story that's going to be." And on
Yeah.
those really really bad days, I'm like, "Man, this is going to be an awesome story." You're right. And
Yeah.
and that's the thing that really helped. And not to mention, even those collector calls, I flipped the script on that. I said, instead of just ignoring the calls and feeling horrible about myself and feeling like a fraud, instead I would call them "I love you" calls. Because the
Mhm.
truth is, my friends stopped calling, but man, those collectors, they would call me every day. They were so diligent, want to check in on me and see how I'm doing. And so I would pick up the phone. I'm like, "Hello?" They're like, "Yes, we're here to collect a debt." "I know. When are you going to pay us?" "No clue." "All right. So you're going to, all right. You realize if you don't pay us, we're going to call again." "I hope so." And that was it. Click. And I was just like, "I just know I'll pay you back. I just don't know when." Right. And I would just do that for several years. And
Wow.
gradually, finally, like with that kind of attitude, the right people showed up. My whole process, the cash flow process, even like with passive income and everything, was created through those lows, right? It was
Wow.
what I was learning because I was having to learn because people will say, "Oh, it's so nice. You must have a lot of money." No, I was literally $1 million in debt. Like there was
Wow.
homeless people that were $1 million richer than me. You know, I
Wow.
had to dig out of that hole. And
Wow.
yes, I did it through business. It helped, especially when I started to create an actual program that helped people find and free up cash, especially business owners and stuff, and then help them evolve from there. And then eventually, as I started to have enough money that I could start investing in creating more passive income, then I started bringing in passive income into what I taught, right? Because I can only teach what I do.
Right.
And so gradually, yeah, it was a slow build. I even had a divorce during that time. I even started Money Ripples like literally 13 years ago in October of this year.
Wow.
Started that company up. I was starting with a non-compete. There was like little ups and downs and valleys and hills going up, but eventually by the end of 2016, I finally got there where I had like 10,000 a month of passive income that I could say, all right, the pressure's off. I don't have to do this business anymore, but man, do people need this? Like I have to do it. That's why I still have my podcast. I started that in 2014. That was my second podcast, by the way. I actually had one in 2008 that I did for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that was back when I didn't even know what a podcast was. I was like, what's a podcast? They said, one of my friends said, oh, it's like online radio. I'm like, okay, makes sense. I'll do that, and just kind of jumped in. But and that's the thing, like all of those peaks and valleys. I mean, that's no matter how hopeless or discouraged you might feel, I can promise you that you have potentially more hope than I even had. Right. And that's the thing I really want to do is spread that message of hope that, if someone like me can overcome something like that, trust me, anybody can.
Right. Oh my word. Well, first of all, that deserves some hand claps. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony with us, your testimony of survival through it all, no matter what. I love how you talked about changing your perspective and how you see the situation. Because anyone on the outside looking in could say, this is awful. But you being in it said, oh, this is great. And even though some people might have thought you were delusional or something like that, I actually relate to that. I get that. I have a friend who was telling me about a situation that she was in. And, there's all these things going on around her, just chaos on top of chaos on top of chaos. And I said, I understand that this looks like chaos on top of chaos on top of chaos, but maybe if you changed how you looked at it, it might be a little bit easier to deal with. So instead of calling it chaos, consider it an opportunity to bask in the ray of rainbows and Skittles. And when you think about these things that are happening around you, you're just like, oh, this is just another moment of Skittles. This is another rainbow opportunity or something like that. Because at least in your mind, it feels better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just totally feels better than actually calling it what it looks like. So yeah, I totally get that. So as you were dealing with this and you were coming out of it, how did you get featured on CNN Money and Bigger Pockets and Entrepreneurs on Fire? And how did it fuel your mission to be even better and more successful?
Yeah, I realized pretty early on that the best thing is really, it's not about who you know, it's who knows you. And so especially as I launched Money Ripples, I realized that I did a few things. For those that are business owners looking for PR, there's a lot of great resources out there to do so. I looked up HARO, right? Help a Reporter Out. I would go and if they had something that was along my
hold on, say that again.
Help a Reporter Out, or HARO.
HARO, Help a Reporter Out. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you look that up, you can actually become like a get daily emails from them where they'll say, hey, these are just usually journalists looking for people to have sound bites. And so, CNN Money was actually about not really like the good thing I did, it was more about the financial hardships I had, right? So they want to hear couples' experiences. So I shared ours and got a little exposure there with CNN. And then like Entrepreneurs on Fire, interesting with that one, I actually had a friend who named Woody Woodward. He actually wrote a book called Drive. And he said, hey, Chris, like I've got this opportunity to write a book with Tim Ferriss, who's the author of 4 Hour Workweek, as well as John Lee Dumas, who's with Entrepreneurs on Fire. I had heard of the show. I knew the show was really big. And I said, hey, let's do it. And then after I was done writing my chapter of that book, Woody said, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Get me on John's show. That's what I'd like." And so through that connection, he's like, "I'll text him right now." Half hour later, I was on that show. I had reached out for a year, never got a response, but because we had a mutual friend, I was able to get connected. Right. So whether it's that, bigger pockets, obviously I got, bigger in the real estate communities because I love real estate investing. That's a lot of things what I teach. And so it's gradual. It's never just overnight. It's always just consistent, persistent efforts day in and day out, and gradually start to build that up. And I've been on even bigger shows than that. I just didn't want to make my bio super long, I want to make it look more diverse, but that's the great thing is that it's often the connections and just the fact that you're looking to deliver value and help people out.
Right, absolutely. And we were speaking with other podcasters, guests earlier today, who were saying the exact same thing. It's about your relationships. It's about the referral. It's about who knows you. And once you are intentional about making the most of those relationships and adding value
Yes.
based on who you know in your network and how they might add value to somebody else, that's what makes you irreplaceable in somebody's life.
Right.
And
that's one thing I teach them money is that the secret to making more money is not just, I want to make more money, because people have asked that for generations and remain broke. It's really about what's the cause of money. And the cause of money is what you just said, right? It's about how do I add value? How do I serve people or solve problems in such a way that they want to exchange that money to get something in their life to make their lives better? And even if you're giving, just like we're not exchanging money to do this kind of episode, right? But what I've noticed is that the more I try to deliver value and show up to serve and try to solve problems, that's where money just naturally follows. Like karma comes back. And so if you instead of just how do I make money, which is just it's more of a scarcity type of mentality, instead of having the abundance mentality of how can I serve people? How can I solve problems uniquely in a way that no one else can because I'm who I am? That's where superpower lies.
Absolutely. I love that. And when I started Executive Help Now, I started because I just wanted to help people. I had this natural gift and skill and talent to support senior level executives. And it's what I had done my whole entire career. And I just had this passion for serving and being that strategic partner. And someone said, if you're going to start a business, do what you know and do what you love. And so that's what I did. And the more I did that, the more my own clients kept telling their friends and about how their lives were improving because they no longer had to, burn the candle at both ends, because now they've started a team, they've built a team, and now they're able to scale and that sort of thing. And it was truly a wonderful experience, but I didn't start the business to make money. But the money came and then kept coming. And I was like,
it's a natural consequence.
It's a natural consequence. And that I was living proof of that. And I was like, this is new territory. So first of all, when it's the first time you've ever been in this space, in this place, it's can be scary, which kind of caught me off guard a little bit because I'm like, who's afraid of money? That was a whole weird thing. But anyways, I've gotten over it. So I'm okay now. But
so often people ask me, they're like, well, how'd you get out of that, that rough time, that rough situation? It was persistent effort, right? I mean, for example, with the coaching that I was doing, I was testing out with different people, not making a ton of money, but it was just a start, and it was helping me refine and become better and better at delivering that value. And then eventually the right opportunity showed up where I remember there was a chiropractic coach that, I got referred to, as well as a dental coach. And that chiropractic coach, I said, hey, look at what I've seen here. By the way, I think you're overpaying on taxes. Get him connected with our CPA. Found out he's overpaying by $50,000 a year. The guy cried. I'm not sure because it was out of pain or out of happiness. I'm not sure. Either way, he was thrilled that at least we figured it out, because then he started telling all of his clients that he was coaching, hey, you got to start using them. And that's the thing, is that once you get in, once you consistently keep delivering value, eventually you're going to deliver value to the right people, and then you're going to see it really take off. People think it's an overnight success. It's not. I can't tell you how many times I've heard successful people say, it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. right?
Right.
And
Yes.
and that's where it really comes down to, is how do you keep delivering that value, and eventually you'll deliver for the right people, and that will just keep passing on and create a ripple effect in people's lives.
Yes, absolutely. And you are the ripple effect expert. I am so excited for you and so happy for you that things did turn around and that you were able to get through and you are now able to teach people what it looks like to make those passive income opportunities, make the most of those. And one of the questions I did ask, and I'm not sure that we got answered, was how do you know which deal is the right deal for you? You said that you're into real estate and that's what worked for you. And even, like I said, there's so many people who come at you with the deals. This is the best deal ever. How do you know what's
right? It does come with experience for sure. The first thing is kind of tying with what we said earlier about, dollars follow value, right? Like, how does it add value? You have to understand what that investment actually is doing to add value. I've realized that although the investment is like the horse, like the race horse, right? You also have to have a good jockey on that horse. You could have the best horse ever, but if it has a bad jockey, it won't win the race.
Right.
So when I bet on an investment, I'm betting not just on what the investment is, which is important. I need to know what it is and how it works, but two, who is offering that investment. In fact, that's almost more important than the investment itself.
Right.
For example, I've had so many people send me stuff, and I'll tell you, there is an energetic thing that maybe we don't have a whole lot of time to get into, but sometimes there are people that just attract the craziest, biggest scams ever. Like, I don't know if they have just this beacon saying, please send me your crappy scam that I'm going to lose all my money in. But there are people that do that. That's why it's good to surround yourself with people that aren't that way so that you don't do that. But like, they were telling me like, hey, there's this thing. It's like, it's kind of tied with crypto and it does this and this, but it's making like a couple 100% a year. And I said, wow, well, let's see who's behind it. Couldn't find out who was behind it because they were being hidden by like a person in Singapore, but they got a corporation in Singapore, and another one in another part of Asia, and this part, like none of it in the US. I said, this is like the perfect way for something to get around being looked at by, especially like US securities, where most of the world usually relies on the US to do a lot of that due diligence, So I was like, yeah, I don't care what they think they're going to pay. I'd rather have a return of my money coming back than just a return on my money.
Right.
And so I look at that. Now you could do one of two things. You can either do what I did, and just through hard experience, you win some, you lose some, right? You understand that things have to work well. I like to find investments that are backed by real assets, like they're real tangible investments. That's why I like real estate, because it's real estate, right? It's real. It's not like a stock. Well, a stock, like, it's crazy. Oracle, that stock, it had bad earnings reported, but that next day it jumped up 40%. That makes no logical sense, right? You're just gambling. You're riding waves, market waves. Literally, you have no clue. Even when I was a stock trader, I would tell people I taught how to trade stocks and options. I'd say, listen, the truth is you're going to be wrong, because nobody can predict the future of those stocks. Like, they'll go up or down, whether they make sense or not. Right. With real estate, it's just not that way. It's not that complex. So first and foremost, one, become a good investor in your own business if you're a business owner, or if you're an intrapreneur where you work for somebody else, become amazing at what you do there. Like, invest in you and how you deliver the most value. But then as you get more money and profit, then figure out, where can I put it that can be a much safer place, but it can also pay me income. Right. So for me, the big thing that turned around when I was looking at what deals were out there, I remember I learned that I could lend my money to real estate investors. And they would pay me 10, 11, 12+% a year on that money. But here's what I do. I invest like the bank. So where our bank will say, if you want to get a mortgage, they'll say, show me your credit report, basically show me your history of paying back. I want to know how much cash you have, and if this property will have equity in it, right? So if you decide to stop paying me, I can take that property and not lose my money. Right. I do the same thing. But the great thing is, now I become the bank, and then I'm getting paid. So if I invest, say, $100,000, I'm getting paid at least 10, 11, 12,000 a year just from that $100,000. In the stock market, I can only hope to pull out 3,000 a year instead of 10 to 12,000 a year. So that's where the magic is. And so either one, you figure out through hard experience who to invest with and how to do it, or two, you borrow somebody else's network and say, hey, I know it's not guaranteed, but I'd much rather leverage and use a mentor and somebody to help guide me along that way.
Right, exactly. Now, I don't know if this is a personal question, but is that how you guided your dad when you discovered what his situation after retiring?
After I saw his situation, the hard thing is he was so stuck in the saver mentality. It was hard for him to break free, even to this day, right? He will ask me occasionally, he's like, maybe I should look at something. But because his view has been so much like just save, put your head down and grind, right? And you throw it into the stock market. That's all he knew. And he didn't know even though I've explained there's another option, it doesn't mean that he does another option. So gradually over time, he's kind of become more open, but it was a long, slow process. And so maybe, with my daddy issues, maybe my whole thing is of trying to rescue other people to not make the same mistake,
Right. Well, I mean, life happens to teach us lessons,
Mhm.
and whether it's your life or somebody else's life. And so either way, somebody's going to be taught a lesson.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that you are experiencing that, even though it might be hard to watch or hard to go through or that sort of thing. You now are able to be a blessing to us and our audience to help us to see that there are options and that things can be different. They don't have to stay the same way. And I actually heard someone say you need 8 different streams of income and in order to successfully retire. And I was like, that's a lot of different streams of income. And it seems like a lot of work. And then the next line they said to me is, not if it's passive.
Right.
And I was like, okay, we need to talk. So anywho, this has been so wonderful. Chris, we all want to stay in touch with you. How can we reach you and how can we continue to learn from you?
Yeah, anything that's Money Ripples, whether it's moneyripples.com, at Money Ripples on social media, or even we've got our Money Ripples podcast that we have on all channels, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, that sort of thing. And as we were kind of talking about, the Work Optional Blueprint book has now been released too. So you can actually now find that on Amazon, where I talk about that upside down millionaire story and how I came out of that, and really how you can actually create that passive income for yourself.
Wow. This is great. And we have them showing on the screen as well. The website, moneyripples.com. Definitely look into that. Facebook, Money Ripples. Also on Instagram at Money Ripples, and YouTube at Money Ripples with Chris Miles, and LinkedIn, Money-Ripples. Definitely check it out. Chris, we are so excited that you were able to spend some time with us and our audience. Chris, you were made for something great. So go and be awesome.
Thank you.